Oh, and welcome back to Rams Talk podcast. It's a lovely summer's day at the minute. I've got a couple of fears because there's a lot of clouds going over, but hopefully it'll be a nice day, good day to record. And I'm here with three brilliant lads. So first of all, in his Fan Hub t-shirt is Mr. Jamie Page. How are you, Jamie?
Yeah, I'm good. It's a bit humid, a bit hot, but doing well. Looking forward to discussing these new signings. Finally,
Finally, yeah. We'll get on to that in a minute. Second, Callum Bucock. You've been away for a while, mate. I've been exploring Kenya.
Yeah, been away. Feels weird to be back, to be honest, doing all this again. But no, looking forward to it. Missed you guys profusely.
Miss you too, mate. Miss you too. And last but certainly not least, Chris Matthews Redwood. How are you, Chris?
Hello, mate. It's a bit moist, isn't it? But yeah, I'm
That's
good,
a
mate.
horrible word. But it is true. Yeah, it's a humid day. I made the mistake of playing football earlier, which I very much regret. So today's topic, as it says in the title, we're going to be rating Derby's new signings. We're going to have a little bit of a chat about players that might be on the move too, and basically just have a bit of a waffle. As Jamie alluded to, it's been a little bit of a while since we've signed some players, especially players on 3-year deals, which is really nice. After years of 1 and 2 years, it's good to get players down for a pretty good amount of time. So we'll go in order of signings. First of all, I'll come to you, Jamie. We've got Joe Ward. I've written down here. He's a right wing back. I've had so many Peterborough fans telling me he's not a right back, which is nice for them to say. But he's most likely going to play right wing back, isn't he? What do you reckon?
yeah, I think so. I mean, we all think that Warren's going to go with this 3-5-2 or some adaptation of that, and in those wide areas, he wants energy, pace, and maybe a bit of creativity as well. Impressed with the signing, probably the most impressed out of all of them so far, I think, in my opinion. I think he's got goals, he's got assists, and he's got plenty of energy as well. So looking forward to seeing him play in that position and seeing, sorry, I think that's my ghost of the door behind me. I need to close the window. But yeah, I like the look of that one. I think he fits the profile quite well. 27 years of age, still got the future in front of him, and some would say in his kind of peak. The one thing I did think about when we signed him though is he gave the penalty away at Hillsborough, didn't he? Do you remember? I'm not sure who he fouled, and I can see him doing that in a Derby County shirt because that's very Derby County. But yeah, on the whole, impressed with that, and hopefully, he can nail down that spot. I think the most important thing is these players we're bringing in now, they need to nail down positions. We're not bringing in players that are going to sit on the bench because ultimately we haven't got that depth, or we haven't even got a starting 11 at the moment. So yeah, I think it's an exciting signing.
Very much agree. And yeah, I had Peterborough fans telling me, obviously it's maybe a shred of bitterness that he turned them down and came to us, but they were like, he can't create chances, he can't cross, he can't do anything like that. But somehow was their assist leader last season with 9 assists, which is 3 more than any other Peterborough player. So yeah, he's a player, he's got a bit of pedigree, he's played at a good level. Paul Warren was clearly very keen on him. He said that in the interview, didn't he? And yeah, really exciting. Hopefully gives us a new dimension. Callum, what do you reckon to Joe Ward?
I echo what Jamie says. I mean, he's probably out of the 3 the most established signing which out of the 3 that, in my opinion, he's been a consistent mainstay within the Peterborough team for the last couple of seasons. I mean, like 40 odd appearances can't be any mean feat, and that's what we need. We need people who are well established within the league, know the league very well, and within that prime age. To a point, but within that prime age category that we didn't have last season. And as you say, he's racked up the assists from where he played. I mean, whether he plays in a similar position for Paul Warren is obviously yet to be seen. But for me, he could be that answer we've been lacking since probably Nathan Byrne, in my opinion, because at right back last season, I just don't think we had that outlet.
We didn't have a right back, did we?
No, well, exactly. We've played like 4 different people at right back. I mean, it started off with Corey Smith, didn't it, at one point? So I think if we can have that outlet out wide in the formation that Paul Warren wants, I mean, he's probably the one that I'm most looking forward to seeing next season.
Yeah, and you made a good comparison there with Nathan Byrne. Interestingly, he was a winger earlier in his career, and then as he got older, he's transitioned to a defender. I think he plays as a centre back at a 3 now for Charlotte, which I can't imagine because he's about 3 foot tall. But Chris, how good does it feel to have a player coming in that's exciting? You know, we've had players over the last few years that have come in and yes, they've got pedigree, but they've had a bad season or a couple of seasons, you know, in divisions above where they've not quite hit the heights. We've got a player coming in that's got 10 plus goal involvements, the majority coming from right back or right wing back. That's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's nice to sign players now who I think a lot last pre-season was championship players who maybe weren't quite at that level anymore and were taking a step down. No, but I like him. I liked him at Peterborough last season. He sounds like a proper Derby signing as well. He sounds thick as a plank, which is perfect. And yeah, I think he's going to be an exciting prospect for next season. He's in his prime, as everyone said. He knows the league inside out, and hopefully he's one of those who can hit the ground running and won't need a lot of settling in.
Yeah, I agree. Although Joe Ward, if you listen to this, I'm sure you're a very smart man. Don't take offense, please. But right. So on to the next player then. So signed shortly after. It was quite weird because I was at the time in Malta exploring some catacombs just outside Valletta, walking around, and I opened my phone and we've signed a player and we're about to sign another one, which was pretty exciting. Josh Vickers, we kind of knew he was coming. There were a lot of rumours about him. Last time he was in League One, he was sensational. He kept something like 11 clean sheets in 20, saved every penalty he faced, made loads and loads of saves. The highlight reel that I put on Twitter that was from Rotherham, unbelievable. And I guess that's the question, Jamie, is Warne wouldn't have brought in a player like this that's got, you know, experience at this level and above that he clearly rates quite highly if he wasn't going to give him some sort of chance in the first team. What do you make of that?
I think it's a sign of intent. I think that actually, sorry about this door, by the way. I'm not sure I can do too much about it. But yeah, I mean, like you say there, I think he's been brought in to challenge Wildsmith for that number one. I think the situation last year is we thought when Warne came in, would he rate Wildsmith? And by all accounts, Wildsmith had a really good year last year. But this is a goalkeeper that Paul Warne knows. And I think more importantly, this is a goalkeeper that the goalkeeping coach knows as well. They've obviously worked together quite a lot over the course of their career. And, you know, I don't think the conversation is, hey, come and sit on the bench for all of next season. I think it's push Wildsmith. And I wouldn't be surprised if after Christmas he's between the sticks, if I'm honest. I do feel like this is potentially a signing of a number one rather than a backup keeper, which actually I'm quite excited about.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. And you mentioned there, it's a player that Warne's worked with before. It's a player that the goalkeeper coach has worked with multiple times. I really, really feel like if he was being brought in, he's got to play and he will play. And I do have that sympathy for Joe Wildsmith as well, because he played well last season. But yeah, I just can't see a world where he doesn't play the keeper he prefers. Callum, we've spoken a little about this in previous podcasts. We don't want to become Rotherham 2, do we? I think that's really important. But if we can pick up players that are quality in this league and help develop the team, it's a good thing. How do you feel about a goalkeeper not potentially has come in, but a goalkeeper coming in and potentially taking the number one spot from a player that played so well?
See, that's where I'm not sure, because I think that he is just there to just give Wildsmith something to think about. I think last year, Wildsmith didn't really have a lot of competition really at all throughout the entire season. I mean, he played in majority of cup competitions as well as league. I think Vickers, for me, is just a well-established League One keeper at the prime age, where if Wildsmith
which he can do, as any player can, have a faults throughout the season, then you've got a really good keeper who's there. Whereas last season, we were worried if Wildsmith either got injured or had a blunder, who's coming in? Scott Loach, who's really there is looking into his coaching badges and stuff. And then obviously we brought in McGee in January. So I don't see him coming in straight away, but I do see him if he puts in good performances and Wildsmith falters. That number one shirt's up there and up for grabs. He's done well previously at Rotherham. Paul Warne knows him well. Gets on well with the goalkeeper coach, and he did really well at Lincoln before that. So I mean, it's someone that really in the goalkeeping department we haven't had for a while. We've got 2 or 3 decent keepers that we're actually happy with.
Well, that's it. And if anyone wants to play a drinking game, just take a shot every time Callum says prime age. I promise you'll be absolutely hammered by the time the episode ends. But no, you are right. The problem is, right, I've got this weird thing where the only time I've seen it where we've really had 2 first-team keepers is, you know, you look at the times when we had Roos and Hamer and Roos and Marsh. I mean, Roos is very consistent in these lists. But yeah, it's never seemed to work in the past, and it ends up sort of demoralizing the keeper that gets dropped out and putting too much pressure on the keeper that's in, because they know if they make a mistake, they're out. So as bad as it sounds, I'd rather Warne had a number one in his head. And by the start of the season, we've got one goalkeeper that we're going to use. And if, for example, his form's awful, then he drops out. But I'd like it if he's got one. I don't like this putting pressure on the other one and stuff like that. I don't think that helps us or helps them. Yeah, some good points. And Chris, I mean, you look at Vickers, as Callum said, he's a goalkeeper that makes saves. You know, Wildsmith didn't actually, when you look at the stats, he didn't make that many saves, which I was surprised about because I thought he made a lot. He's a keeper that saves things. You need that sort of thing in this league. How happy are you to have him at the club?
Yeah, good. And I think I agree with what Callum says. I think it would be very harsh to drop Wildsmith. I think he was in my top 3 players of the season from last year. So I think it would be harsh. But I think, and I don't usually go on squad numbers, but I think it will be very key when the squad numbers do come out just before the season starts, who does have that number 1 shirt, because I think that would be very telling. But I do think it would be harsh on Wildsmith if he's dropped without doing anything wrong, really. But having 2 good keepers at this level, if you want to go up, is vital, because if you do get an injury, you don't want the likes of Roos having to come in. So, yeah, I'm pleased.
Yeah, good points. Good points. I like it. So 2 out of 2 are pretty good so far. We'll do ratings at the end. I've realised we've already forgotten to do that, so we'll do them when we've done all 4. So third one is Callum Elder. Now, this is one that I was really excited about, not just because he helped take my Leamington Spa team on Football Manager 2013 up to the Championship, but also because, you know, he's a quality player. He's played for Australia, albeit only once, and they're not an awful side. They seem to qualify for pretty much every competition, so they've got to have something going for them. And he's a solid Championship player. Rossini spoke really highly of him, and pretty much everyone he speaks highly of seems to do pretty well wherever they go. So, yeah, Callum Elder, Jamie, I'm really impressed. I think he's a good player. What do you reckon?
Yeah, another solid option, definitely. And I think when this news came through, it felt for me like it was almost like we've been promoted and we were trying to consolidate a place in the Championship, because I think the players that we're signing are good enough to play in the Championship. They're not going to get you top 6, in my opinion, in the league above, but they are good enough. And I think Warne kind of alluded to that. He's obviously 28. He's played for his country. Like you said there, no kind of mean feat. And I think, again, his energy, he's 110%. And I think that is the running theme across these signings, is that whenever you ask opposition fans, you know, what do you think of this player? Well, they're 110%. They'll put themselves into the ground for the club they play for, and they'll throw their head where it hurts. And that's typical Paul Warne. Obviously, we've seen a bit of rumours over the last couple of days about signings that we may make. And I think in some positions, I think you need a little bit more than that. However, in these defensive positions, I think that's probably all you can ask for, in my opinion. 90-minute men, people that are going to work hard for the shirt. It might not be pretty at times. It might not be technical at times. We've lost David McGoldrick, who I don't think for the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, we'll have a technical player of that standard in this team. I really don't. But it gets results, and it gets results for Paul Warne. So, yeah, happy with him. Number 3. What happens there, though? Because I know he's number 3 at Hull. Does he take Fozzie's number 3? What do you think?
I don't think he's going to, is he? Yeah, I think that'd be an interesting fight in the changing room between those two.
That's what Jamie says. I think it is too much asking a player to throw their head at everything. I mean, putting their head, but throwing their head seems a bit extreme.
You're wrong, Chris. That's the sort of passion and desire we want at this club. If you're not willing to sacrifice your own life,
absolutely, I completely agree.
Callum, we had a little bit of a chat before recording, didn't we, about Callum Elder? I've never really seen him play as a wing back, and I looked it up and I had a little check. I know Transfermarkt isn't the most reliable place in the world, but I had a quick check and had a look, and it was right. He hasn't really played as a wing back or further forward very often. He's quite a defensive left back. We mentioned before we are likely to play that back 3. You've seen a lot of teams. Chelsea, they've played Reece James as a right-sided centre back in a 3. I know it's a bad example after their season, but the season they won the Champions League. They did that and won the Champions League. So it must work in some ways. Do you think he's going to play at wing back? Do you think he's going to be at centre back, or is it one of those where we might end up with him like Fozzie did last season, playing at both?
No, I do see him at the left wing back because I think there was for Hull during the lockdown season that's kind of been going the rounds where he's taking it forward through the midfield and then he's played a sublime pass through the centre. I mean, he's got it in him. Whether it's consistently, I think we can probably expect to see the sort of Hayden Roberts ilk in terms of the way he goes forward, kind of. Not really knowing what he's got to do, but he'll put in a shift and do it. And I think at the end of the day, if we've got really a more attacking rightful wing back in Ward, and then a more of a defensive one in Callum, then you're kind of looking at that balance between the lot. And the left side will probably be solid with Fozzie and with him and Fozzie together. And anyone called Callum, who's a left-footed player, I
thought you were going to say
it's going to be a baller in my eyes. So for me, he's probably going to be the one that I'm going to have the back of the shirt if he does pull out the rings.
Well, the last Callum I remember playing at Pride Park let 4 goals past him. So, I don't know.
Without me, I'm just saying, without me, your goal wouldn't have happened.
That is true. Chris, I mean, I've lost it now. They both make up points, haven't they, Jamie and Callum? He's clearly a good player. Obviously, he's not the most attacking fullback in the world, but he's solid. It reminds me of the old Forsyth Wisdom fullback partnership where Forsyth would bomb on and whip in early crosses and Wisdom would stand still and wait for the ball to come back. That sort of thing. Are you excited? Basically, are you excited? Are you excited to see a player that's played at a higher level come down and play for Derby?
I mean, I wouldn't say I was jumping off the sofa when we signed him, if I'm brutally honest. I think the word solid is one that's going to be used a lot about him. But those are the players we need. We don't need, lots of David McGoldricks. We need lots of Callum Elders who are going to, as Jamie would say, throw their head in and, really, really commit to the club. So, if we sign 4 or 5 Callum Elders who have got good experience and won't let us down, then I'm happy.
Good stuff. Good way to end the Elder conversation. And then the last one, which to be honest is the one I've probably been the least excited about, purely because he's a lot like a defender that we've just lost. Don't get me wrong, Curtis Nelson, I think he'll be a great signing. As Jamie said, he'll throw his head into everything. He'll fight for every ball. I saw clips of him and he was quite literally putting his body on the line. He's a defender, like a proper defender. Awful on the ball. That's what everyone said. He is terrible on the ball, which is just like another Curtis we've just had. But in a back three, have him in the middle, have him sweeping. Sounds like an ideal signing, doesn't it, Jamie?
Yeah, you can kind of get away with a non-technical player in a three if you've got players either side that can play. So whether that's Cashin, Forsyth, or Elder, as you've mentioned there, I don't think he's going to get caught out as much. Again, I'm going to say it solid. That's going to be the theme through this podcast. He's solid.
The next drinking game.
He is, yeah, solid, yeah, solid and prime age. My only thing is that I will say is that I think we've covered some players on the previous shows that we could sign in that position. Looking at it, I think there's better centre backs out there, in my opinion. But I'm happy to trust Paul Warne, and I think he gives that experience. Again, he's applied himself at a higher level. I thought out of all of the interviews that for those four players, I quite like Elders, but I really liked Curtis Nelson's. I thought the interview came across really well. He sounds like a student of the game, knows the game, and yeah, I'm happy with that. So that's another one, student of the game. That reminds me of Liam Rossini. That does massively.
It does. As it's one of the most horrendous football cliches, in my opinion. Student of the game. Callum. Everything that people are saying is setting me off now. So, I mean, as Jamie said, Curtis Nelson, there are probably better players out there, which is right. But he's played again at championship level for a long time. And you don't play at that level for a long time unless you've got something about you. And, he's in his prime age for a centre-back in his early 30s. He's experienced. He knows what he's doing. We need experienced heads. We lost Curtis. We lost... what's his name? James Chester. We lost Stearman. They were, three really big people in the dressing room. Will it be beneficial having another player in that's got that sort of experience?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the players in that position, we're kind of lacking in that. So to get someone in who's come down from a higher division and played consistently throughout that, you're kind of looking towards that number of centre halves that we've got and going, who's going to be there week in, week out throughout the League One season. The only thing that does worry me with him is that composure at the back. I don't know how much of that composure we'll need with a full Paul Warne pre-season. His obviously tactics coming to fruition and stuff, whether we are more of a long ball merchant team or if we do keep that playing from the back going. The way it's panning out, I just worry if Cashin does end up going, the composure at the back and what we've got at the back in terms of like comfortability is pretty much out the window for me, because I think, as we said, we've got Fozzie who's sort of all right on the ball. Cashin is probably the best on the ball, and then we've got Nelson and maybe Rooney is probably there at the moment. So we do need to get one or two extras to bolster those. I'm not fully set on him to be, yes, he's going to be first team player now and straight away in every single starting 11. He's just one of those that solid signing, and it could be one that's kind of gone under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, I think you could be right. And yeah, interesting you point out that the shift in style, I think, is really going to take shape this season. Cashin completing 120 passes at Shrewsbury away. We're not going to see anything like that this season. If Nelson can hoof accurately, perfect. If he can pick someone out 70 yards away and hit it in their vague direction, then yeah, he might be a good signing. But I know it's not really big news, but we have another centre back lined up as well that will come in. I don't know when, but there's someone coming in at some point. So we'll have more options at centre back, and I wouldn't be surprised if we bring in a few more. Because yeah, as I said, if Cashin goes, we can't have 15 left-footed centre-backs as well. So we're going to have to bring in someone that can actually play on the right side. And as we spoke about before recording, Rooney, great player. I'm sure he's going to turn into a brilliant player. But for a full season, you don't want him as a first-choice option. He's not ready yet. So, yeah, good signing, good solid bloke. Drink, by the way, if you're still playing the game. Chris, taking a drink. Chris, what do you make of Curtis Nelson?
To be honest, I can't say anything more than you three have said. Solid, good to have him. Adding to the numbers, and I think if we do play with the back three, which I can't see any other option, he'll be one of those players who will play most of the games next season, and will hopefully throw his head in it.
Would you say he's at his prime age?
No. Purely because I've not got much drink left. So I can't say.
Oh, good stuff. So that's our 4 signings so far. And to actually make sure that the title means something, we'll rate them all from 1 to 10, and we'll probably, if we remember, look back at the end of the season and see what rating we gave them. We probably won't remember, but we'll do it now anyway. So I would say we'll do all 4 each. So I'll say Joe Ward, I'd say excitement level wise, an 8. I think he's an exciting player. Vickers, a 7. Callum Elder, also an 8. And then Nelson, I'd give a 7. Yeah, 7. We'll go with that. Jamie, what about you?
I'd go Ward 8, Elder 7, Vickers 7, Nelson 7. Solid numbers.
It's very solid. Callum?
Ward 8. I'd go Vickers 6, Elder 7, and Nelson 6.
You can say 5 then.
I was, yeah.
Poor Curtis. Poor guy.
It's that Curtis is haunting me. That's why it's Curtis. It's the name Curtis that's haunting me.
Chris, what about you, mate?
I'll go Ward 8, Elder 7, Vickers 6, and Nelson 7.
Oh, that was good. I was scared someone was getting like a 2 or something like that. I could see it in your eyes, Chris.
It's a brand new me this season. I'm not going to hurt anyone apart from calling Joe Ward thick. I'm going to be very respectful and not give anyone low scores. Don't you worry.
New season, new Chris. I like it.
Absolutely.
I like it. I guess before we finish this little bit on our transfers, we'll go round. If we're going to sign a player from every position, what would you choose, Jamie? Or which position would you choose? It's very hot in here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the next one has to be a striker. As you've probably seen on Twitter, I really, really, really hope it's not Connor Washington. I said that to Jake on Friday night, and he tried to convince me that potentially it's a good signing. To me, no, I think there's a lot better out there. I think a striker.
Washington, to be honest.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah. I spoke to one of my mates.
George Washington.
He'd be good. He'd be solid. He'd be very solid. I was speaking to one of my mates who supports Sheffield United, who he played for a few years back, and he said he couldn't hit a barn door, but he'll run and run and run, which I think is
like
interesting.
James Collins.
Yeah, I've got one of them.
I think James Collins runs, does he? Is that a run? Sorry, James.
Oh, that's very harsh. Very harsh.
I know. I've watched him for too long. It hurts me.
You need something a bit different. You need something different to Collins, in my opinion. And I think them two will quickly forge into the same kind of striker. And it's all well and good saying, yes, like I said earlier, in wing-back positions, in defending positions, you need people that are 110% that are going to die for the shirt. But in those forward areas, you need a bit of magic. You need someone to win you the game. And I'm sorry, but that's not Connor Washington.
The way I see it is, if we're playing a front two, you need someone who'll run. He could be the Shane Long to our Graziano Pella. We just need another one. We need someone with quality up front. The transfer window has been open a week. We've got plenty of time to bring other people in. You need a squad. I can't believe I'm making excuses for a man that doesn't play for us. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like you need balance. Collins, I don't know what he is. He's meant to be a poacher, but he's not. I think having someone that will press and work hard, I can only see that as a good thing. As long as we bring someone else in that will score goals. I think that's the important thing.
For me, I think we need Leicester Heskey, not Liverpool Heskey.
What niche reference?
Getting a
Well,
bottle.
you gave a niche reference about
What's
Pele
niche about that?
and Shane Long.
He scored loads of goals.
Southampton fans listening, going, "Yeah, that's a good point." That one.
Hey, and Shane Long scored a pretty decent hat trick as well, if I remember rightly, that season. So, you never know. He might score 3 across the whole season. So it won't be too bad. I'm guessing Callum, Chris, you guys have both want a striker as well.
So that I don't know. I'm completely confused.
That's or a centre mid, especially if we're looking at losing one in particular as well.
Oh, it's like you knew. It's like you knew. The next topic is people that could potentially leave. So, I mean, there's 3 blatantly obvious ones, or 4, I guess. Jason Knight, he's gone, and I think there's no point even considering him a Derby player going forwards, as sad as it is. Christian Bielik, he's gone as well. He put some weird apology on, apparently, because he made a joke about someone, and loads of people in Poland got angry about it. And then I think I wouldn't be surprised if Max Bird went as well. I know there's been a couple of rumours about him. And also Erin Cashin, as has already been mentioned. Jamie, I mean, I know that's 4 players there, which is a lot of players to talk about in one little segment. They're all going to go, aren't they? Can we replace them?
I mean, I hope 2 of the 4 don't go, in my opinion.
I think antidepressants. I'm about to burst into tears.
I think, yeah. I mean, if we can keep Cashin and Bird and the other 2 go, that's absolutely, in my eyes, that's absolutely fine. I would be very gutted if we lost Bird and Cashin, and I hope that they'd give us another year. But with Championship clubs sniffing around, I heard a little rumor about Hull being interested in Bird. I don't know how true that is. This time of year you get rumors from everywhere, but. Yeah, I'm not bothered if we lost Knight and Bielik, but I would be quite upset if we lost the other 2.
Well, I think that's part of it, isn't it? Is that Warren's creating graft and work hard FC, and Bird does work hard, but he's not an athletic runner, is he? He's not bursting around the pitch at 90 mile an hour all game. He's not throwing his head in the way of things. He's not that sort of player. So. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, think about it. If you're not affiliated with Derby, he's not a Derby fan. I know he came through the academy. If you're a player who has an offer from the division above with probably a pay rise, playing the style of football that you want to play, you'd go, wouldn't you? Like, when you think of it neutrally, there's no benefit to staying. I know he's vice captain. I know it's sad, but I can really see him going, especially to Hull under a senior as well. So, yeah, I know what you mean. Callum, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm echoing Jamie. I think Bielik's, I really considered him a Derby player since he left, to be honest. So he's kind of out there for me. And Knight, I'm just praying that transfer fee that's been reported is higher than what we're getting, because otherwise it's another valuation of a player that we're getting absolutely ripped off for. In my opinion, I think 1.5 or whatever that number is banded around is far too low. But I just think that League One status is probably hindering us a little bit. And Cashin and Bird, a weird one for me. I think Bird is, if we don't go, say if we go up next season, Horahan's got a year left on his contract. There's no one behind him in terms of that ball playing centre mid. You need a workhorse, but you also need someone in the middle who can actually play around with the ball. We haven't got one beyond Conor Horahan, in my opinion, and Bird does that for me. So and he's young still, so if one can convince him that going forwards, learn under Horahan, stick with us. If we go up next season, we're going to be a much better proposition than Hull. I look at Hull and go, what? They're a mid-table Championship team. Sorry to all the Hull fans.
I'm sure many listen in.
And then you've got Cashin for me, who is the mainstay at the back 3. You could say to him and go, you could be easily the centre half for this club for the next 5-6 years. It's just whether you can convince him to do it for the next year. And if you don't go up, then sell him on. But yeah, it's 4 go. Then you'd be I think we'll be on the back foot, very much so. So I think if we can hold on to at least 1 or 2 of them, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I think that's. I know I'm giving my opinion on everything. I'm sorry to everyone for that. But I think it's interesting with when you look at the formation we're looking to play. I mean, if it is the 3-5-2 or 5-3-2 or whatever, the two centre mids are workhorses. You tend to play more down the lines. You've got obviously the three centre backs, then you've got the wing backs that get up and down. A lot of it will come from the wide areas. You try and stretch the pitch a bit more, and I think having players that are, as you mentioned, they're players with quality. I think they're meant to be in the attacking position. So you have your attacking midfielder. I don't think he'll want his holding midfielders to do that. And for that reason, I can see, potentially Hourihane not getting as much game time if he stays, and Bird not really fitting in. I think he'll want to get workhorses. And I know obviously Jason Knight's on his way out, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of box-to-box midfielders, proper workhorses, proper grafters coming in the middle and just make that position their own, and their job's to battle. If we want to get the ball forwards, we just play over them or round them or whatever and try and get whoever's in the hole on the ball. So yeah, I think it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think there's going to be a couple of fans that will be disappointed if we do lose those sorts of players and bring in workhorses, but he's got a plan. You got to trust him, haven't you? So yeah, Chris, what do you reckon, pal?
If you were waiting for the word workhorse to come up for the drinking game, you are now very drunk.
Have you got an alternative? Genuinely, I've used grafter and workhorse about 50 times. Is there another word?
I do think we need at least one or two players who can pass a ball five yards. If I'm being honest, it's starting to sound a little bit concerning if that is the way we're going to go next season. We do need a sort of plan B as well. And let's not forget how much we did miss Max Bird when he was injured last season. So I think in terms of players to lose, I think in my order of ones, I'd be most disappointed to least disappointed. I'll be most disappointed to lose Bird, then Cashin, then Knight, and then as I think Callum said, it doesn't feel like Bielik's been a Derby player for about 18 months. So that is completely irrelevant. But if Knight does end up, I think 1.5 mil, they've had our pants down there. It needs to be at least double that because we need, we've all been saying for the last 2 weeks, selling the likes of Knight is so we can actually pay some money for some decent League One players, and 1.5 million, it ain't going to get you a 20-goal a season striker, in my opinion. You need more than that.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'd be concerned if we were spending more than 1.5 million on a player in League One. I know Ipswich did it, but yeah, I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. I mean, if we put a little bit of that towards Alfie May, I know there's been conversations about, do we actually want Alfie May? Do we actually need him? I think if we could bring in someone of that caliber who scores loads of goals, sets up loads of goals with that money, I think that would be perfect. Maybe that's why he's not signed with Charlton yet. So, we will see. Shane Long, yeah.
Where's Pele?
Young. Yeah.
Graziano Pelle, Shane Long.
He's got to be in his late 30s now, hasn't he, Graziano Pelle? What a player.
Like our Ibrahimovic of League One.
He doesn't do enough yoga, mate. That's his problem. He's get on the yoga and he'd be playing till he's 80.
I think there's rumours that I've seen, and again they are rumours, but I think Ipswich may be prepared to let. Is it Lapido? Is that how I'm saying his name? Lapido.
Yeah. It's something like that. I don't know.
That he may be available, and I think if he's available, I mean, he played under Warm briefly, but
he downed tools and refused to play so he could leave.
Hate each other.
Yeah,
that ain't happening. It ain't happening.
Sorry, Jamie. Sorry to shut you down so quickly, my friend. I hope he signs now. I think
we're going to end up with Connor Washington, aren't we?
Yeah.
That is it. That's it.
Connor Washington and Shane Long for us next season.
That'd be funny. Front three: Shane Long, Connor Washington, and James Collins.
We need it.
Billy Sharp.
Yeah, we need at least 2 players that'll hit 5+ goals. To be fair, so
Jamie, did you seriously say Billy Sharp?
Yeah, I was joking though, Chris. Please don't.
Thank God for that.
You massive clown. How dare you, Jamie? Terrible. Yeah, I mean, we've all said a lot of players, haven't we? Especially strikers. It's the most exciting position, pretty much, isn't it? You get a good striker in, the likes of Chris Martin, David McGoldrick. I know he didn't properly play there, but Vidra, James Collins, of course. You get excited watching. I get excited every time Collins sprints to the corner to chase a lost cause, and then we get hit on the break. That's the bit I enjoy the most. But yeah, right. We've talked for long enough. I've talked for long enough. Nice one, lads. Any parting comments? Anything about Shane Long?
When do you actually guys? Yeah, go on, Jamie. I'll let you go.
One more name, Deepo Akinyemi.
Well said, Jamie.
I've just said it. 20 goals for Ayr United last year, and he's looking for a move down south.
Cambridge, maybe?
Not sure about that
Potentially.
one, mate. We could sign... sorry, Callum. We could sign Johan Jurivsky from Minsk. He scored 19 goals in the Belarus Prem.
You and European starlets.
Let's just sign some donkey from another league. What were you going to say, Callum? Sorry.
I was just going to say, when do you guys actually think the next signing will be?
Well, the last ones were done about 2 weeks ago, weren't they? So it could be any time. I'd be surprised if we didn't get one next week. Yeah, surely. Yeah. You got to get them in early, haven't you?
2 more before pre-season, but I think we'll probably see 2 go out as well. So it'll balance things, I think.
Yeah,
I think
can't
we'll
wait
get at least one attacking player before pre-season, surely.
Yeah. Sibley go to Al Nassr for 70 million. That's a realistic transfer. Right, we talked rubbish for long enough. Thank you guys for coming on. If anyone did enjoy this, thanks. But if you did enjoy, please feel free to check us out on YouTube if you've listened via a streaming service, and feel free to catch us on Google Pods. I don't know why I said that one first. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anything like that. We're on all of it. You can catch previous episodes, which are all brilliant, I'm sure. As well, if you want to follow us on TikTok, we've got Adam on board now, and Adam is under the age of 24. So he actually knows how to use TikTok. So he's made us a TikTok account and he's posting clips and Derby memories. So if you want to follow them, that's at RamsTalkPod.
Just dropped him at a follow.
Right. Yeah, if you want to catch us on Twitter, we're at RamsTalkPod as well. So lads, thank you very much for coming on. Everyone, thank you very much for listening, and see you next time.
Cheers, mate.